I'm about community, learning, discussion, respect, integrity, truth, science, and discovery. Welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox. Hello, and welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox. I'm your friendly neighborhood ghost hunter, Justin Brown, and I'm presenting episode 27 to you folks tonight. We're going to be talking about haunted dolls. Now, the poll that I had put up last week for you guys to vote on, the other choice was poltergeist activity. And that's what I thought we were going to be talking about tonight. But the haunted dolls skirted by one extra vote at the very end. So here we are, talking about haunted dolls. It's a very interesting topic. It's a very popular topic. And it dates back well before poltergeist activity. So it should be interesting. I will warn you ahead of time, I am not expert on any topic that I talk about, so if you guys have any additional information or would like to correct me on some things, go right ahead. This is a two-way conversation. I try to be informative and educational as possible, but, I'm not claiming to be an expert on this, so let's jump into this, shall we? Let's talk to the girls moderating the chat. What's up, Missy?
Not a lot. How are you tonight?
I drink some coffee. I'm gonna stay awake. I've been editing Man vs. Paranormal all day. Well, most of the day. And that just drains me. So hopefully I catch my second wind. Talk about haunted dolls. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm
all
ready.
Right.
Let's go.
Is Jessica ready?
I am.
You are. How are you? Are you good?
I'm good.
All right, good. So, what we're going to do, if you have not watched the show before, please ask me questions. Feel free to chat amongst yourselves, comment on what I have to say. Here in a little bit, I'll check back with the girls. We'll shout you out if you comment. Get you to be a part of the stream one way or another. We'll read off your comments. We'll try to answer them if you have any questions. So here we go. Haunted dolls. For thousands of years, mankind has been making dolls out of whatever materials they have. Okay? And that's the most interesting part, right? You can make a doll out of anything. And since you can make a doll out of anything, you can put anything into it as far as meaning, as far as belief. So that's what we've been doing since the very dawn of the creation of anything, right? Any creative work, any artwork, anything that we personify as a reflection of us has a meaning, and we project energy onto it. But what does that mean? What is the extent of that energy? What is the possibilities and the abilities of that energy? How does it work on us, with that being said? So we're going to talk about this in depth. The history, maybe 4,000 years ago, I think, my research told me that the first archaeological finding of a doll was 4,000 years ago, give or take. And I forget where they found it, probably over in Asia somewhere, or Europe, somewhere like that. And they found it probably in a tomb. And it's interesting why people fear dolls. And I think we can talk about that because I know a great deal about psychology. It's one of my favorite topics, that I have researched and studied. And the fear of dolls is known as pediophobia. And it stems from other phobias like the fear of humanoid figures. But I think it's a subset that doesn't really involve. I think you can have fear of dolls, but not have fear of humanoid figures. So you can be afraid of dolls, but not afraid of mannequins. But from the most part, psychologists have learned that if you fear dolls, you are even creeped out and unnerved around mannequins and stuff like that too. So why is that? Why are we creeped out about dolls and mannequins and stuff like that? Well, anything that puts us in an uneasy state, our brains are designed to see faces into, when we see faces, we want to put like a consciousness to it. We want to put, feelings and emotions and tie it to it. That's how our brain works. When we see other people, that's what we do. So our brain has a problem or an issue with, differentiating the faces on dolls and the faces on mannequins and even the faces that you see in other pareidolia-like scenarios as something that's not what it is. So it creates an uneasiness, right? So that is pretty self-explanatory. A lot of people deal with an uneasiness around dolls. They have this kind of inhuman stare. So that kind of gives you a paranormal or supernatural like, vibe from them. If you have any type of, fear of the movies you used to watch as a kid, that's going to compile all your fear. The popular culture when it comes to dolls is huge, okay? The horror industry and the film industry plays off everyone's fears and emotions. That's what they target. So the popular culture kind of pushes the psychology behind why people fear dolls, okay? Now, that's pretty self-explanatory, and I believe that everybody can handle that notion, right? So we can talk about the history of dolls, and since I'm not an expert, I'm going to refer to Google on this. Now, there's a list of 10 dolls here. Some of you probably heard of all of them or most of them, okay? But there's probably a lot of dolls out there nowadays, since the internet's out, that are not on this list. I think the most popular doll, most commonly known haunted doll, is Annabelle, right? It's the doll that Ed and Lorraine Warren removed from someone's residence, and they put it in their museum for safekeeping. It was believed that this doll was cursed, that would cause people to die, have accidents, become sick. The films like The Conjuring and stuff like that kind of thrown this, this doll back into the mainstream of popular culture. But this article says, thanks to the films The Conjuring 2013 and Annabelle 2014, this doll's story has become iconic amongst paranormal horror fanatics. Annabelle was given to a girl named Donna in 1970, who noticed that she had a tendency to move around the apartment when no one was looking. Once she was even found in a red substance coming out of her hands. Check out what happened to Donna's poor roommate, Lou. Lou awoke one night from a deep sleep in a panic. Once again, he had reoccurring bad dream. Only this time, somehow, something seemed different. It was as though he was awake but couldn't move, so sleep paralysis. He looked around the room but couldn't discern anything out of the ordinary, and then it happened. Looking down towards his feet, he saw the doll, Annabelle, began to slowly glide up. His leg moved over his chest and then stopped. Within seconds, the doll was strangling him, paralyzed and gasping for breath. Lou, at that point of asphyxiation, blacked out. Lou awoke the next morning, certain it wasn't a dream. Lou was determined to rid himself of the doll and the spirit that possessed it. Lou, however, would have one more terrifying experience with Annabelle. Okay, so that's just one account of that. So we're dealing with a case of sleep paralysis. So even though he believed he wasn't hallucinating, it could have been hallucination. And that's a common thing to do when you're having sleep paralysis, is hallucinate. The second one on the list is Amanda. Amanda is the doll that's no stranger to eBay. She's been up for auction over 20 times. Each time someone purchases her, the owner tries to get rid of her, often within the same year. When unhappy, the doll supposedly moves around of her own free will and causes terrifying nightmares. She now lives with paranormal investigators in Atlanta, Georgia, where she can be heard scratching the case that contains her. Okay. Mandy is another doll they got here. They don't have a description, but they got a YouTube video. So if you're curious about Mandy, you can search her. The next doll they have listed is Harold. Harold is one of the creepiest dolls we've ever come across. Check out the following story from his last owner. Harold was originally put up for auction in 2003. He's supposedly the first haunted doll ever sold on eBay. The listing, Greg wrote, made him the subject of websites and news articles around the world. I didn't see the original auction until Kathy, who won the auction, put it up for sale a year later. Kathy told me that the reason she bid on the doll was not because she believed the stories, but because she wanted to learn doll restoration. And her teacher told her that this doll was perfect to learn on. A year later, after hearing a number of personal experiences, including deaths of 2 people she knew after they came in contact with Harold, she decided to put the doll back up for sale. When I saw Kathy's auction on eBay, I looked at Greg's original listing and literally laughed out loud. I didn't believe a word of the video he posted. So how did I end up owning this doll? Kathy had a reserve on her auction, and I was curious as to what it was. I keep putting in bids until the reserve was met. I received an email from Kathy which started by saying, "I don't believe Harold is haunted, but I do believe he's cursed." She went on to say why she thought so and asked why I wanted the doll. The story goes on, okay? So there's definitely some history and some happenings that kind of involve the doll. A lot of people, if they meet if they meet, some events in their life that are unfavorable, they like to find reasons. And if they don't have rational reasons why, or normal, logical reasons why, depending on their psychology and their belief, the supernatural, they may find a target. In this case, Harold the doll is a target for an explanation of why things are going the way they are. A lot of people like to use astrology, certain signs and certain times during the year, like Mercury retrograde or, things like that. They like to say that that's the reason why they're having misfortunes. The next on the list is Okiku. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Okiku doll is wearing a kimono. It once belonged to a little girl, Okiku. Once she died of a cold, her spirit possessed the doll, and now its hair grows. The doll is now in the Maninji Temple. I know I'm not pronouncing that right. First, its hair was short, but it grew over time, and it now has long hair. Nobody knows how the hair continues to grow, but the science researchers concluded that its hair is that of a young child, maybe Okiku's. So that's pretty interesting. Pupa is another doll. Pupa had the same owner from the 1920s until the owner died in 2005. The original owner said that Pupa was alive and always considered the doll to be beloved friend and companion. So that's another thing. The psychology behind dolls. I actually know somebody that is doing this in the paranormal field. I'm not going to name any names, but sometimes people's psychological states will cause them to use an object like a doll, a pet, something like that, to befriend and use. It's almost like the movie Castaway, where Tom Hanks uses the soccer ball and paints a face with his own blood on the ball to cope with his isolation. So it's the same type of wiring in the brain, the same response, right? You use the doll maybe to fill in a hole from a loved one or lack of friendship that you may be dealing with. So there's definitely some psychology there. And there's other dolls like Amelia, there's Letta the puppet, if anybody's heard of that, Juliet, and Robert the doll, or Robert the haunted doll, which is named. And that's the one with the kind of like the sailor cap, and he's dressed up as a sailor, if you're familiar with that. All these dolls you can learn about on the internet or books. Plenty of books out there. But that's a list. So I'm sure there is much more out there, like on eBay, probably even Amazon, claiming that the dolls are haunted. Things happen around the dolls. The dolls seem to animate. The dolls walk around. All kinds of stories. But does Justin believe that dolls can be haunted by spirits? I believe anything's possible. I believe that magic is real, curses can be real, stuff like that. But I also believe that there's a lot of fakery out there. There's a lot of legend and lore out there that have no basis in reality. And with that being said, with extraordinary claims, you would need extraordinary evidence. So looking at it objectively, you would have to take each case of each haunted doll, and look at it objectively, find evidence of such things happening. Maybe there is no evidence to be found. Maybe it's all based on anecdotal evidence and personal experience. But there you go. That's the rub, right? That's the conundrum we have with the paranormal. There's a lot of times that you fail to do things, but why aren't we conducting more experiments like Annabelle? Why don't they conduct experiments with her, right? I would. People's belief in things have them harboring or, putting these things in cases and keeping them away from any experimentation or exposure to other people. And since they have these beliefs, they stay. That's where they stay. So it is very difficult to know if these dolls are actually having the effect on anybody they come across, or they're only having effects on certain people. And that would be interesting if that was the case. So let's go back to the girls. See who's all in the chat. Who's with us this evening? What's going on with the chat? Who are we going to shout out tonight?
I have Danetta Goldtrap. I have Sandy Griffin. I have Daniel Everson, Chelsea Spielman, Heather Elliott, Jamie Hunt, Derek Schreiner, Corey, and Joe.
Thank you for joining us. Joe, I have not seen on the live stream before.
No, that's the first time I've ever seen her.
Hello, Joe. What about you two?
We have Buzzard and Landon. Buzzard actually had a question. If a person destroys a haunted doll, what happens to the spirit?
Good question.
Yes.
All right. Well, no one can know. There's a lot of belief out there. If you destroy something that a spirit inhabits, what I believe would happen is that it depends on what inhabited what took place. Because I believe, some things can be put into other things, that traps them there. Beyond their will, they can't escape it. If that's the case, then if you destroy the doll, then that may not destroy the entrapment. So they still may be trapped somehow, but I don't believe that they're trapped in the doll. That may, logically speaking, if you destroy whatever imprisons you, it may destroy your chains that hold you there. Now, if you choose to inhabit the doll and it gets destroyed, then the spirit pretty much decides whether it wants to cross over and go on, or it may inhabit another doll. What I find interesting in the paranormal is a lot of people pretend to have very strong beliefs on certain things, and they will tell you they know what happens, but no one really knows. No one really knows if dolls can be haunted. There's no proof of it. The people who experience the things, who are convinced of it, it may be proof to them, but proof to others that haven't experienced it is the problem. So no one really knows unless you can objectively look at it case by case and find evidence of what happens in each case. I believe many things could happen. It could release the spirit. It can destroy the spirit too along with it. It can disperse the spirit and make it lost until something happens to where, it's found again. It gains control over its senses if they have senses. So I don't know is my answer to that. There's possibilities though.
The dollhouse just jumped on. I think she might have been here the whole time, but I just seen her. She said, we have one of our dolls that is supposedly demonic kept in a case because of what happened to the previous owner.
Okay. I've seen this a lot if certain dolls are dubbed demonic or dangerous or hazardous, they're kept in the case. I guess that case keeps them from having human contact with others. I guess the contact with them is believed to what cause the unfavorable things. So that's interesting to me. Like, you would think just having close proximity to these dolls would be bad enough, but the case surrounding it kind of keeps it, at bay. What do you think about that, Missy? Do you think,
Well, John Zaffis's take on it is that when you contain it, it contains the energy that it has.
so
I
glass
don't.
and wood contains the energy? Is it
I
the
guess.
is it the intent behind it trapping the energy? It has really nothing to do with the material makeup of what you're encasing it with, but since you believe that it's encasing it, that's what's doing it?
I guess. I've had never heard of that before, but
See,
it's just
for
weird
some
to
people,
me.
so for some people, the explanation's good enough, but for me, it's not. for me,
Right.
it's like, okay, how does that work? But that would be my guess. Any other questions or any other shout outs? The dollhouse, by the way, is Chelsea. Her last name is what she
Chelsea Spielman.
yeah, Spillman. That's right. That's their haunted location in Indiana.
Yeah.
Okay, I seen Tony Pelosi popped up.
She said after she purchased the dolls, she began having health complications. Strange things happened in her home. She kept them in a church until we received them. We get a lot of tapping from the inside of the case. We have the inside lined with salt, hoping it stays in there.
Okay. That's the thing. Having health issues is normal. There could be I was curious if they went to the doctor. Did the doctor have a diagnosis and a reason why you were ill? If the doctors had no reason or explanation why you were ill, I could see why you would believe that the doll had something to do with it.
Corey had a question. He said, so like a house and a building holding the energy, like the
Right.
glass or whatever.
I believe that houses and objects hold energy because they're imprinted. Because there's something about the actual material makeup of it stores things. Kind of like a sponge, kind of like a porous object. It holds in water. So the energy is like the water. It can seep in and stay there. There is no scientific, hypothesis or explanation for that, but that's what us paranormal researchers and investigators try to go out and figure out. So there's a lot of belief, there's a lot of ideas and hypotheses, but we don't know. Okay, YouTube, we're clear on YouTube, right?
Yes. Actually, Val, she jumped on too.
Hey, Val. Thanks for joining us. All right, so there we go. We'll check back with your comments here in a moment. Some very interesting comments there. Encasing the dolls seem to harbor or seem to imprison the effects, seem to protect the people from the outside from dealing with the doll. It seems like if you interact with it or just leave it out in the open, it can do things. But the act of imprisoning it, encasing it in either a box or a glass container, whatever you're doing, that is enough to keep it at bay. So that's interesting. If you think logically, there should be no reason that the glass should stop something like that. But if you believe that it does, maybe the power comes from the mind. Maybe the power comes from here. You're, projecting that into the container or the object you're containing the doll in, and that's what empowers it to work. So that's interesting. I would like to know why you think encasing haunted dolls protects you from it. You know, I would think that if it's haunted and if it's cursed, just being around it would be bad. Very, very interesting to know exactly why you guys think that, or exactly why others think that. But it seems that it works. You know, a lot of people think that things stop, and you know, I talk about the power of the mind a lot on this show because I believe that mostly everything can be explained through understanding of the mind and the psychological aspect of it when it concerns the paranormal. I think a lot of people get creeped out and scared. I think a lot of people have very strong beliefs and faiths in things, and I believe that I believe in mind over matter in a lot of cases. Things can manifest, things can happen. I think that just the strong belief in a doll doing something to you can cause things to happen, and that's strange. I think that we project things onto the dolls, and that's what makes things happen. I would love to be able to prove that or find any supporting evidence of that. It is very hard to do that research with limited time and funds. If anybody would like to help me try to do that, I know how to set up the experiments. I just need a little bit of help. For one, I need a haunted doll. I need a haunted object. Two, I need people willing to partake in an experiment, a double-blind experiment with these ideas I have. I know the dollhouse would be probably a location that we could do some stuff. I don't know. I have to talk to Chelsea about that. But like I said, it's not super easy. Missy, did you?
Derek said he was having a conversation with the dollhouse about us coming out and checking it out.
Yeah, Chelsea had asked me to check it out when we met on Facebook a few months ago. So
she just said we'd love to have you out, Justin.
Right. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. Do you want to read what Val says there?
Yes. Val says, I think it just keeps it at bay, but I do believe that it could still try to manipulate you or anyone to do harm or to set it free.
Like it tries to trick you into letting it out of the case by messing with your mind. Sounds like a good script to a horror movie.
And Glenda is on too now.
Hey, Glenda. Yeah, it's funny because if it can do that, then it should just do what it's supposed to do in the first place, in my opinion. I've had a lot of paranormal experiences. Well, I'm not going to say a lot. I've had a few very profound paranormal experiences that I believe are 100% what they are. It's just unexplained supernatural occurrences. But do I believe that I've had experiences that involve entities and objects, specifically dolls? No. But that doesn't mean that they aren't real. Chelsea and her husband do own a location where there's dolls in it. I have been to many locations that have dolls in it. And the reason that they put dolls in it is, for one, it creeps people out, and for two, they want to see if the spirits there can inhabit the dolls and haunt them, which makes sense. But you know, these stories that you hear are, you know, they are a very limited way that you can know about it. Or you can go ahead and read out Stephen Brown's comment there, Mitzi.
Okay, he said, I have a picture that we removed from a home. It is encased, but it definitely has not stopped the activity. I've never had activity at my house until we brought it on the property. Witnessed 2 apparitions, heard my wife talking to me when she was totally quiet. A few weeks ago, I was home alone and heard children talking in our bedroom. So yeah, it's still very active.
So there you go. Sometimes encasing it doesn't do anything. Maybe encasing it keeps the dolls from walking around and murdering you in your sleep and choking you out, like the one doll. Maybe that's what it stops. I don't know. I'm curious. I want to go study this crap, right? I want to know firsthand. I hate just sitting back and reading stuff from the internet and reading stuff from books.
Daniel just said dolls, I want to say, can be unpredictable depending on the situation of death of the person. What their mind was, time of death, what their mind was, time of death, what they were thinking, time of death. I want to say psychologist aspects.
I don't know. I mean, the story suggests that people, especially the one that we read about. Let's see if I can pull back up what name of the doll. The Chinese one or the Japanese one, the one with the growing hair. In that case, they believe that the daughter who passed inhabited the doll. So I guess what he's saying is, if, like, say in a case where a child dies and they have this favorite doll, maybe the spirit or the person can imprint their, aspects of themselves onto the doll. I do not believe that someone's spirit, soul, whatever's left over after you pass away, can inhabit a doll, be forced to inhabit a doll without some type of occult magic being involved. Now, I do not have firsthand knowledge of this. I have not experienced this, but I've had people that I trust tell me, people that I believe tell me that this is possible. Okay, I cannot tell you folks that this is not real. Okay, there's a lot of things that happen out there that are beyond me. They're beyond anyone that could be listening or know about such things. I believe that stuff happens. So you have to have an open mind. So I believe in two things. I believe that spirits, intelligent spirits, can inhabit places. They can hang around. They can come and go. But I think aspects and essences of conscious people can linger around in objects. Now, in the case of the one with the hair growing, there could be a logical explanation for that. I know hair and fingernails grow after death, but I don't know if the hair of that doll was the actual child's hair. I know some dolls used real human hair, so that could be an explanation, but I don't know firsthand. Is there anything else going on there on Facebook?
Yeah. Chief from Paranormal said maybe in a glass box tinted with a mirror tint to the inside, supposed to trap the spirit.
Okay, I can see where, that would make sense if mirrors in fact do encase or trap spirit energy, because that's been a very long held belief. But I don't know if any dolls are encased that way.
Daniel Everson said that's what happened to us in our case. I think it was the dolls, I want to say, can be unpredictable depending on the situation.
Okay.
And Jamie Hunt said it's just like an attachment.
Right.
Chief Flynn said that's why I'm only keeping heads. He has doll heads he's doing the test with.
What tests?
Like paranormal tests, like UEP sessions and things like that.
That's even creepier if you only have the heads, right?
He only has the heads.
Does he have them on, like, sticks? Does he impale the heads?
I don't know if he went that far or not, but...
When my friends come over, I think that's what I would do. I would, like, put them all on sticks and put them in my living room.
I will say, and here in West Virginia, there has been places I went for and you see that a lot in the woods. Like doll heads, like on the stick in the ground.
Now, there's the Island of Dolls, the notorious Island of Dolls. Have you heard of that, guys? I know Missy has. But there is an island. What is it, in Central America somewhere, or somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico? I can't remember. I got to Google that now.
I think it's in the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay. Where is the island of the dolls? The island of the dolls is in San Lorenzo, Ciudad de Mexico. That don't make sense. Wait a minute. Just south of Mexico City, between the canals of, I can't pronounce that word, you can find a small island with a sad background, which never intended to be a tourist destination, obviously. So I believe the story behind that one is a child drowned, and to appease the child from haunting the location, they started getting into the habit of hanging these dolls up in trees and decorating everywhere, every place with the dolls. And it became like this thing. So everybody used to travel there and put dolls. So they accumulated over time, and now they're everywhere.
There was a couple things on YouTube. Buzzard asked if you put 2 or more haunted dolls in a container, would they multiply in the energy in the container, or would they fight for control?
I have no idea. I would love to see someone do that. Has anybody ever done that? I've never heard anybody doing that. I have no clue.
Spirit Seekers said that they studied this for years, and the energy actually attaches to the doll in his studies. That's what he came up with.
Spirit energy attaches to the doll.
Mm-hmm.
So is that the soul? What is their definition of spirit energy?
Mm-hmm.
Chief Lynn Paranormal said that he impaled them on a water bottle.
That's what he keeps his water fresh with, his doll heads.
Yeah, he said they ain't coming to the house. I know that.
Let's see. Chris Sanders has joined us. Josh Bender joined us somewhere.
The dollhouse said we have a doll from the Island of the Dolls.
Who said that?
The dollhouse.
Oh, they do. They're pretty fanatical doll collectors then.
Chief Lynn said that's cool. I could do it. Put them both together.
That could be a new a sport, watching haunted dolls fight each other. I'd watch it. Probably be pretty boring because they don't move. They just stay there. But I'm surprised that people haven't been more creative with it. You know, you see haunted dolls all over eBay and probably other sites that sell things. Stuff like the Dybbuk boxes too. That kind of falls in the same category of what we're talking about. We'll probably vote on if we should talk about Dybbuk boxes too, and that's a hot topic since Zach Bagans just did a live show involving his Dybbuk box, and that was very interesting. A lot of things that happened during that show was pretty funny. Honestly, I couldn't stand watching it. I do not get into his overdramatic style of how he presents his belief in the paranormal. It's become a shit show. But, you know, do demons get trapped in boxes? There could be some old school Jewish magic that does that. I've done some research in the occult, and Jewish magic is very interesting. It's very interesting indeed. So I can't say that it's horse crap because, you know, certain aspects of magic in the occult I've dealt with. And you have to leave a little bit of space in your head open, the possibility. I'll post a pic of it on the water bottle. Thank you. I would like to see that. That would be entertaining. Doll head spirit fight on Facebook Live. He didn't get it from what I heard. Big pansies. Yep. Or one is older than the other. One on black Barbie head missing. So we'll get back into the psychology behind the fear of dolls, because I think a lot of people get creeped out by dolls, and I believe a lot of the paranormal experiences people have around dolls is due to their fear. I have no reason not to believe that that's the case most of the time. Believing that, your illnesses and misfortunes that happen because you have alleged haunted dolls around you is not very convincing to me. Let's just say someone shipped me a haunted doll, I put it in my house, and stuff started happening bad. I would not automatically say it was the doll. For example, I had brought soil from the crawl space and basement area of the Monroe house with me from an investigation there, to donate to the Archives of the Afterlife. I had that in my house. Nothing happened. Out of the ordinary. Activity didn't go up and it go down. Nothing really happened. I believe that if I felt like something was going to happen, I would trick myself into believing that things that would happen do. And you got to face it, folks. It's very, very easy to do that. It's very, very easy to find ways to blame things that aren't actually the cause of things. We do it all the time, whether you're skeptical or a complete believer in it. It doesn't have to involve the paranormal. You can, blame your headache on things that have nothing to do with giving you headaches. You can blame your depression on things that are not actually causing your depression. You can blame your bad day on things that actually have no reason whatsoever for giving you the bad day. You just got to get a grip sometimes on reality. And I like to stay in the middle. I like to ride that fence of the paranormal. What's possible, what's real, what's provable. I think that's where we should stay. I think we should look on both sides, stay objective, and just try to find evidence. We're not doing a very good job. Some of us are trying harder than others, but we just need, for one, to support each other. For two, we need to get together and work together better. Okay, we need to listen to each other, which I hope this show does. Listen to each other's sides of it and use that to better our research somehow. Okay? EVP research definitely could be better. If you guys want to see what advances I've been doing in EVP research, by all means ask me. I have it up on YouTube. I have it everywhere on my website. Getting the $50 digital recorder and hitting record is not EVP research. That's bad. Okay, so we need to be doing better at that. Do we have any? I see some comments going. Do we need to go back? Yes, no.
No. Derek said I brought a brick back from a haunted location and nothing happened with it. Chieflin said I blame Zach. I told Derek I could throw the brick at him and that would happen. But no, nothing big.
Okay. Chelsea, if you're still watching, do you believe that some of the dolls in the dollhouse are just there for props, or do you believe they're all haunted? Is that, kind of give an explanation for the dolls in your house? Is some of them you just try to collect haunted dolls? People get scared walking into the house being full of dolls. You would be amazed at how many people freak themselves out. I wouldn't be amazed at all. But yeah, I totally believe that. Go ahead and read Heather's.
She says, I had this Barbie doll when I was little called the Bionic Woman. I don't know why, but she freaked me out. I couldn't stand looking at her, and I used to hide her under my bed. LOL. That was probably psychological.
A Barbie doll when I was little called the Bionic Woman. I'm going to have to Google that. I want to see what that looks like. Bionic Woman. Let's do it on the show.
Funky.
Let's do it on the show. Why not? Bionic
Barbie.
Woman Barbie. Yep. Just There we go. That's what they look like, right, Heather? I can't say that I'm creeped out, but she looks kind of manly. It definitely could be psychological, I would say. Definitely. Definitely. All right.
I also think, like, sorry, with a lot of the dolls, like some of their eyes, and I'm not scared of dolls or anything, but some of their eyes actually, when you like go around them, they actually look like they're seriously, looking at you. So I can see why sometimes, people are scared about them.
That's a good point because the research I was doing prior to the show suggested that dolls become creepier because they're more lifelike. And I'm glad you brought this up because it reminded
And
me.
it's just like the painting too, where do we go? Moundsville. It's like the eyes follow you. I mean, so paintings and when they get really good, painting on the dolls too, the eyes look real.
Yeah, it's a psychological effect. I can't remember what the eyes following you effect is, but the more lifelike the dolls started to look, when we got better at making dolls, the more creepier they got and the more easy and scared we got. And the point you made, they close. Sometimes they close to make themselves look like they go to sleep. Sometimes they talk back to us. Hearing a doll talk because they got a speaker and recorded messages inside them make them way more creepier than they are otherwise. So the advancement of how dolls can be made more lifelike makes things even creepier. I think Harold the doll was actually the inspiration for Child's Play, the doll and Child's Play movie, and that creeped a lot of people out for sure. I'm trying to catch up with the Facebook comments. It looks like they're just chatting.
The dollhouse said we have about 20 that have attachments. They all have stories, but the house has over 100 dolls.
So that would be an interesting experiment to do for next year. Go to the dollhouse and we'll try to do things interface death style. All right. We got about 10 minutes left. What we could talk about is the fact that a lot of beliefs concerning dolls and the occult make sense, especially when we're going to go back to the magic and the occult. Voodoo dolls, for example, deal with the occult and deal with magic. Okay, so if you're for a second, if you want to believe that voodoo dolls are real and voodoo dolls work, how do they work? That's an interesting question, right? If you poke a voodoo doll, are you going to get an injury where you got poked? Are you going to feel stabbed when they stab you, or is it a delayed effect? What happens, right? I just you can't really prove in a controlled experiment that voodoo dolls actually work. I do have a friend that definitely deals in the occult and magic, and I'm going to say that he really believes that what you can do when it comes to magic in the occult world is very limited. But I guess it depends on the abilities that the person practicing the magic has. It's something that I don't have a lot of experience in. I try to stay away from that type of thing, not because it terrifies me, but because I feel like if I get wrapped up in it, it would cause problems. I believe that my intuition tells me not to. But in order to understand such things, you have to get so close to it. You have to deal with it to have good knowledge of things. So maybe that's something that I and others should do. If you have a particular reason that you do not deal with the occult, you do not deal with witchcraft, stuff like that. Try to find constructive and safe ways to deal with it outside of reading it on the internet and books. We have to have some kind of hands-on experience with these things. We might extend our census out to people who do work in those fields, interview them extensively, and try to observe some of the effects that they believe that can happen. That's the same thing with the haunted dolls. Go check out the dollhouse on Facebook. See if you can book an investigation there and see for yourself if there's anything to the dollhouse. Maybe if you see a doll on eBay that claims to be haunted, maybe if it's within your budget, buy it and see if you can experiment with it and see if it's actually haunted. I have seen videos, but not very scientific ones. Voodoo dolls aren't for hunting. Go ahead and read that.
He said voodoo dolls aren't for hurting people, really, but like good type spells, like love, happiness, and money.
Yeah, that's true. I was just using that as an example. There is good white magic out there.
The dollhouse said we have a mirror in the house that we were told was used during an occult self-sacrifice.
A doll that was used during a sacrifice. Oh, a mirror.
In the house that we were told was used during an occult self-sacrifice.
Wow, that's pretty extraordinary claim there. A self-sacrifice.
Yeah. Josh said his great aunt used to make ceramic dolls and her house was filled with them. I wonder if he can get us one.
Well, if they're not haunted, we don't want it.
Well, we could take it to the dollhouse and experiment with a doll that's not haunted versus a doll that is haunted.
How?
Well, if the claim is that the doll is haunted and we have a doll outside of the location and we set one doll in the doorway and the doll that hasn't been in the house that has no attachment to it and do a side-by-side EVP session, can we get an EVP off of this one or this one?
So what you're saying is we expose the non-haunted doll to a haunted location to see if the doll gets haunted.
You take the doll that's supposed to be haunted and you put it feet away. You don't take the doll out of the location.
Oh.
You don't bring the doll in the location, but you do the same EVP session with a recorder and a radio, and you stand back and watch.
Okay. I'm not quite sure what that
I'll explain it later. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get it.
I would predict that the haunted doll would, if it was haunted, you may get something like an EVP or something, but the doll that wasn't haunted, you wouldn't get anything because it's not haunted. Right?
Right. But is it? Do we know if it is? If his great aunt put all of that love and all of that time into it, is she not attached to it?
Okay. So what you're saying is, can any doll that you get have an attachment?
Right. Because if you buy a 3-year-old a doll and it's her best friend and she'll love it forever, does she attach herself to that doll when she's dead?
Theoretically, yeah. I believe that everything, that's what metaphysicists pick up on, psychics and empaths. They pick up on that stuff, whether it be deemed haunted or not. I don't think that's important or necessary, but they pick up kind of like, the doll will have traces of the skin cells from its owner, dust, any type of stuff that transfers onto it. That's the same thing as the energy, right? It can transfer onto it just by being in its environment. So, but, getting into it, can that energy that's being attached to it make it haunted? Like, what's the actual definition? Like, the doll animates, bad things happen around the doll, dolls make you see things, dolls make things happen, that's what the question is for the show. Um, getting an EVP inside a house with dolls doesn't necessarily mean that the doll is causing the EVP. Like, we need better experiments, in my opinion.
Well,
we need
that's
to
what
take.
Chief Wood just said. He said we can come up with a collaboration of tests we want to try on it. He said, and if it's deemed not haunted by us, I'm going to blow it up on film live.
Okay. I would like do the experiment with the doll inside the house, take the doll outside the house. I would try to replicate. I would try to see all those things. That's Steve Hummel would have a lot to say about this topic. I would say, maybe if you guys reach out, the owner of the Archive of the Afterlife, Steve Hummel from Paranormal Quest, he would definitely have a lot more to say than I would about the topic. He has a lot more experience with haunted dolls and haunted objects than I do. Being in that museum, I felt like it was being kept at bay by whatever Steve was doing. I felt like someone's energy had intent in the museum. What did you think, Missy?
Steve is just so laid back, and I think he makes you feel that way. Like, come in, sit down, have a chat. He if the energy offsets itself, he's so laid back, and you don't feel any of the negative from whatever's there.
So you're saying if you went in there without Steve being in there, it would be different?
It was kind of, yeah. It
Okay.
was a little different.
So what did you pick up on when he wasn't in there?
There were like eyes everywhere. And it was like someone was following me around. But as soon as he walked out of the doorway, someone started like following me. They were like on my ass, trying to see what I was doing, what my intent was there.
Okay. The only thing I felt menacing and oppressive was that executioner's cap from the penitentiary. I did not fucking like that thing. It gave off the craziest vibe ever that I don't care to ever feel.
Right.
YouTube, what's Glenda got going on here?
Glenda said, I have a painting on the wall with the eyes that do follow you. Not haunted, but something about the eyes.
Yeah, I believe that most of the time, probably almost all the time, that's psychological. But it's interesting. It's an interesting thing, that involves the reason for the show. Are haunted dolls mostly psychological? Are some actually haunted? Those are the questions. So that's how we ended. Is there anything else on YouTube that we need to address? Okay, Facebook, before we close this out.
Chief Flynn said it's going to be in a case outside with a half piece of plexiglass in front of it so we can see the test and possible explosion.
That's funny. All right. Thanks for helping out again tonight, girls. You helped me out tremendously. The show and the interaction gets more and more and more, and the comments would be impossible to read out and interact with without you guys. So thank you. All right. Thanks for watching tonight, guys. There's a lot of changes going on with Interface Death. You're going to be seeing a lot of videos taken down because of different members not being in the group. You're going to see a lot of different changes coming into 2019, but I don't want you to freak out. We're going to adjust to the changes and make our content even better. And we're just going to move forward with new members coming in 2019 in the absence of older members. So I just want to give you guys a head up on that. If you see some differences in our lineup and members and changes in our content, that is why. I won't elaborate on it for obvious reasons, but thank you for continuing your support of our show. And to kind of sum up, my answer to the question, can spirits inhabit dolls? Possibly. But like I said, with extraordinary claims comes extraordinary evidence and the need for that. So thanks for joining us tonight. We have our patrons to shout out. Clay Borman, RJ Murphy, Scotty Fox, Nick Oldtrip, Jessica Bias, and Sherry Brett, thank you very much. This content would not continue without your support. If you are interested in supporting content like this, our paranormal research, and everything else under the Interface Death umbrella, check out patreon.com/support Interface Death. The link is in the video description. You get rewards depending on what you pledge each month. So if you guys want to help support us, go check that out. Check us out at Deadlight LLC on Facebook. We make custom infrared lights that Josh Bender builds. Very, very good lights. They're becoming very, very popular. Tomorrow night, we're talking to Keith Age on Necromancer Live Show at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, so definitely check that out. And we're going to be going to Randolph County Infirmary this Saturday. We're going to live stream. We're going to film. We're going to do what we always do. We're going to have fun. If we have good internet service over there on our phones, check out that live stream on YouTube. I think we're only going to stream on YouTube. So there we have it. I'm going to leave it there. Stick around for some video promotions, and I will see you next time.
What was that?
I don't know. I feel like I can't breathe in this room.
Generally, Justin, when you guys investigate, do you just take long pauses, wait to see if you hear things, and observe everything that's going on?
It depends on the location and our experience with the location. So in this case, at Waverly Hills, since we've been here before, we've heard a lot of stories, done a lot of research, and investigated, we typically like to listen a lot because we hear the coughing, we heard it last time, so we can hear it again. Of prolonged isolation, paranoia, depression, helplessness, brain stimuli decreases. Now, what happens when you put a man isolated in 3 paranormal infested buildings for 3 nights in each location, all by himself? No one to help me. No one to protect me. Just me versus you. Does paranormal activity increase?
So what do you think of this piece of evidence?
I think by far it's the best piece of evidence we have seen here.
That's flat out amazing. And that's something we've never captured.
Oh, wow.
What? Nobody has ever got it on video.
That's creepy.
In 11 years.
So no one's ever caught this on video?
Never. Ever.
Here is my story, and here is what I went through for my research into the paranormal.
Push the door, please.